My name is Elena. I am 26 years old. I live in Germany. I want to tell you about one special night. It is New Year's Eve. In Germany, France, and Italy, New Year's Eve is always on December 31st. People wait for this night with great excitement. It is not just another evening. It is the last day of the year. Every year, my family makes plans for this night. We call relatives. We invite friends. We clean the house. We also buy food from the market. The shops are always full on December 31st. Everyone wants to prepare something nice. People buy meat, bread, vegetables, drinks, and sweet cakes. The air feels full of joy. When I was a child, I loved this day. My parents were always busy, but they also smiled more. They laughed when they cooked. They listened to music while they set the table. The kitchen smelled good. Sometimes it smelled like goose. Sometimes it smelled like carp. One year, it was only hot dogs and potato salad. But every time, it felt special. On the morning of December 31st, my mother always cooked something simple first. She wanted us to eat lunch early because the real meal was for the evening. She often told me, "Save your hunger for tonight." I remember sitting at the small table with my brother. We looked at the clock. We waited for midnight. It always felt so far away. The afternoon hours were slow. We watched television. There were always special shows. Some were music concerts. Some were funny programs. Children liked cartoons. But everyone knew that the real fun was later. My father usually went outside to meet our neighbors. He talked with them about fireworks. Some people bought small ones. Others bought big ones. Everyone wanted to light them at midnight. As the evening came, the house grew warmer. More people arrived. My uncle came with his family. He brought cheese and bread. My aunt brought salad and wine. My cousin came with a cake. Soon the table was full of food. There was no space left. The living room smelled of roasted meat. I still remember the taste of goose with potatoes. It was salty and soft. When the meal started, the adults sat together. They raised their glasses and said, "Happy New Year!" But it was not midnight yet. They just wanted to start the night with a smile. I sat with my brother and cousin. We talked about what we wanted to do in the new year. I wanted to travel to France. My cousin wanted to study in Italy. My brother wanted to buy a new bicycle. The hours went slowly, but we were never bored. We played games. We told stories. Some people danced. Others just ate and ate. My uncle liked to sing. His voice was loud. Everyone laughed. The children sometimes ran outside to look at the sky. Some people already started small fireworks before midnight. The sound was loud, but it made us happy. When the clock showed 11, we all became excited. The last hour of the year always felt special. The adults poured more drinks. The children ate chocolate. We watched the clock on television. There was a live show in Berlin. Thousands of people stood outside near the big gate. They sang and shouted. We felt like we were there with them. Finally, the last 10 minutes came. We all counted down. 10 minutes. 9 minutes. 8 minutes. Our voices grew louder. Everyone was smiling. Some people held hands. Others held glasses. My heart felt warm. I looked at my family. I felt safe. When the last minute started, the television showed a big clock. Everyone shouted together, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, waji. Then the fireworks started. The sky outside turned red and gold. The sound was like thunder. We opened the windows. We saw the bright lights in the sky. Some people ran outside with sparklers. The street was full of smoke, but it smelled sweet. At midnight, everyone said the same words. Happy New Year! We hugged each other. We kissed on the cheek. My aunt cried a little. My cousin laughed. My brother shouted, "This year will be the best!" The feeling was so strong. It was not just another night. It was the start of something new. After midnight, the noise outside was very loud. The neighbors set off big fireworks. Some lasted for many minutes. The sky was never dark. We stood outside with scarves and gloves. It was cold, but we did not care. We smiled at strangers on the street. Everyone said Happy New Year, even if they did not know each other. It was like one big family. Back inside, the food was still waiting. People were hungry again. They ate more cake. They drank hot tea. Some wanted beer or wine. The children drank juice. The music played again. Some people danced in the living room. Others sat and talked about the past year. I remember one year when my grandmother was still alive. She sat in her chair and looked at us. She was old and tired, but her face was bright. She told me, "Every New Year is a gift. Enjoy it." I never forgot those words. They are still in my mind each December 31st. In France and Italy, it is also the same. Families come together. They eat a big meal. In France, people often eat oysters or duck. In Italy, people eat lentils for luck. I did not grow up there, but I heard these stories from friends. We all share the same idea: food, family, and fireworks. When the night became late, some people left. Others stayed until morning. My brother often fell asleep on the sofa. My uncle always sang one more song. My aunt always packed some food to take home. It was past 2 in the morning when the house became quiet. The next day, January 1st, no one worked. It was a holiday. We slept late. We woke up slowly. My mother made soup. My father read the newspaper. We talked about the night. We laughed again when we remembered the songs and fireworks. The house was calm, but my heart still felt happy. This is how I remember New Year's Eve in Europe. It is not just about food or lights. It is about family and friends. It is about saying goodbye to the old year and hello to the new one. It is a night when everyone feels close. And every year, I wait for it with the same joy. Before I continue my story, please subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. Even though my memories of Germany are strong, I also remember how people in France and Italy celebrate the same night. Each country has its own food and its own small traditions, but the feeling is always the same. It is the feeling of being together, of waiting for midnight, and of hoping for a better year. France was the first country where I spent New Year's Eve outside Germany. I stayed with a friend near Paris. Her family welcomed me kindly. They said, "You are part of our family tonight." I smiled and felt at home. The house was bright with candles and small lights. On the big table there were many plates. The meal looked special. In France, the food is very important. That night we ate oysters, duck, and potatoes. I had never eaten oysters before. They were cold and soft, and you put lemon juice on them. Everyone said they were delicious. I was not sure, but I tried them and smiled. The duck was roasted and golden. The smell was strong, but the taste was rich. There was also bread and many kinds of cheese. Each plate looked like a gift. The family talked a lot during dinner. They spoke about the old year. They spoke about their hopes for the new year. Some wanted good health. Some wanted success in work. Some wanted more time with family. Everyone shared their thoughts while they ate. It felt warm and close. When the clock moved near midnight, the family grew more excited. They turned on the television. A big crowd was waiting in Paris. The lights of the city were shining. When the last seconds came, everyone counted together. 10, 9, 8. The sound grew louder. At midnight, fireworks filled the sky. We opened the windows. The air was cold, but the colors were bright. The family hugged and kissed on the cheek. They said, Bonne année, which means Happy New Year. Some laughed, some cried, but all were happy. I looked at their faces and felt the same joy I felt in Germany. It did not matter that the words were different. The feeling was the same. After midnight, the family served dessert. There was a chocolate cake and small sweet pastries. They also drank champagne. I drank juice, and it was enough. The children danced to music. The adults sang. I felt lucky to be there. The next day, January 1st, was quiet in France, just like in Germany. The shops were closed. The streets were calm. People stayed at home with family. We ate a simple lunch of soup and bread. Then we walked a little outside. The air was fresh, and the streets were almost empty. I understood that the first day of the year was a time for rest and peace. A few years later, I also spent New Year's Eve in Italy. That night was full of life and color. I stayed with a friend in Rome. The city was full of people. The streets had music and lights. People walked together, smiling and talking. The air felt like a festival. In Italy, there is one special food for the night. It is lentils with sausage. The family cooked a big pot of lentils. They told me lentils bring luck and money. The small round shape looks like coins. The sausage was heavy and tasty. Together, the food was warm and full of flavor. They said, "Eat many lentils, and you will have a good year." I ate a lot because I wanted luck too. The table also had pasta, cheese, and bread. The family ate slowly and with joy. They spoke in Italian, and I did not understand every word, but I understood their smiles and their laughter. I felt the love in the room. When midnight came, the whole city seemed to shout. People counted together, and then fireworks began. The sky turned red, green, and gold. The lights also reflected in the river. It was like two skies, one above and one below. People hugged and kissed. They shouted, "Felice Anno Nuovo," which means Happy New Year. There was also one funny tradition. People threw old things out of their windows. I saw shoes, clothes, and even small pots fall into the street. The family told me it means throwing away bad luck and making space for good luck. At first I was surprised. Then I laughed with them. It was strange but also beautiful. It showed that people wanted to start fresh. After midnight, we stayed inside with the family. The grandmother gave me a red scarf. She said red is a lucky color for the new year. I felt happy and thankful. We sang songs and ate more cake. The children danced and the adults clapped. The house was full of sound and joy. The next morning was quiet, just like in Germany and France. The shops were closed. People stayed at home. We ate a simple meal of pasta and bread. The children spoke about the fireworks. The adults laughed about the things people threw from the windows. The whole family looked happy. When I think about Germany, France, and Italy, I see many differences in food and traditions. But I also see the same heart. Everywhere, people come together on December 31st. Everywhere they eat, talk, and wait for midnight. Everywhere they hope for a better year. That is what connects us. It does not matter if it is goose, oysters, or lentils. It does not matter if you say Happy New Year, Bon Année, or Felice Anno Nuovo. The real meaning is the same. It is the joy of being together. It is the wish for a good future. It is the smile of family and friends. Every time I celebrate New Year's Eve in Europe, I feel the same joy. The food may change, the language may change, the songs may change, but the love and hope do not change. That is why the night feels so special, no matter where you are. Now I am older, and I still wait for New Year's Eve each year with the same joy. But as an adult, the night feels a little different. When I was a child, I only cared about fireworks and sweets. I wanted to stay awake until midnight, and I felt proud when I did not fall asleep. Today I think less about the noise and more about the people around me. I still live in Germany, but my family is smaller now. My brother has his own home, and my cousins live in other cities. Sometimes we cannot all meet on December 31st, but we always call each other, and we always say, Happy New Year on the phone. Even if we are far away, the night makes us feel close. Most years, I celebrate with my parents. We prepare a simple meal. Sometimes it is goose, sometimes it is carp, and sometimes it is just hot dogs with potato salad. It does not matter what is on the table. What matters is that we eat together. The food is warm, the room is bright, and the feeling is strong. At midnight, we always watch the fireworks. Some years we buy small ones. Other years we just go outside and watch the sky. The lights are never the same. Sometimes they are red, sometimes gold, sometimes green. But they always make me smile. The colors above remind me that life is full of surprises. I also remember the times in France and Italy. I think about the oysters, the lentils, and the red scarf. I think about the laughter in those houses, the hugs, and the songs. These memories show me something important. They show me that Europe is full of different people, but we share the same heart. On New Year's Eve, the differences do not matter. The love is the same. Sometimes I also join friends. When I go to their homes, I see how each family has their own way. Some like to play games until midnight. Some like to dance. Some just sit and talk. Some drink champagne, and others drink tea. But always at midnight, we all stand together and count the last seconds. That moment is always powerful. It feels like the whole world is waiting at the same time. One year, I was in a big city for New Year's Eve. I went to the square with many other people. There were concerts, music, and bright lights. When midnight came, the crowd shouted together. Fireworks exploded above the tall buildings. I did not know the people next to me, but they smiled at me. We all hugged and said, "Happy New Year!" It felt like one big family. The next morning is always quiet. January 1st is a holiday in many countries. The streets are empty. Shops are closed. The world feels like it is sleeping. Some people sleep late. Others eat breakfast slowly. Families sit together and talk about the night. The calm after the noise feels soft and peaceful. On January 2nd, life begins again. People go back to work. Children go back to school. But the memory of the night stays. It gives us hope and energy for the year. It reminds us that even in cold winter, there can be warmth in our homes and in our hearts. As I grow older, I understand more about why this night matters. It is not only about the food, the drinks, or the lights. It is about saying goodbye and hello at the same time. It is about closing one door and opening another. It is about looking back with respect and looking forward with hope. When I see families in Germany, France, and Italy, I see the same picture. People gather in warm houses. They share food. They laugh and sing. They wait for midnight. And when the fireworks begin, they all feel the same joy. It does not matter which city, which country, or which language. The moment is the same. I think this is why New Year's Eve is special in Europe. It is not only a holiday, it is a symbol. It is the one night when millions of people stand together in spirit. They may not know each other, but they share the same wish: to have a better year. Now, when I stand outside and watch the fireworks, I feel this connection. I think about people in Berlin, Paris, and Rome. I imagine them standing outside too, watching the sky, hugging their families, and saying their wishes. Even if we are far, we are close in that moment. I believe New Year's Eve will always stay in my heart. Each year may look different. Some years I celebrate with many people, some years with only a few. Some years we eat rich meals, some years simple ones. Some years I am in Germany, some years in another country. But always the feeling is the same. It is the feeling of love, of family, of friendship, and of hope. It is the moment when we all stop and think, this is a new start. That feeling is what makes New Year's Eve so beautiful. And that is why, every December 31st, I still wait with the same joy as when I was a child. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope you enjoyed learning how we celebrate New Year's Eve in Europe. Remember, this night is not only about food or fireworks, it is about family, friends, and hope for the future. I wish you a very happy New Year, wherever you are. Stay safe, stay strong, and keep learning English with me. My name is Marlin. I am 25 years old. For most of my life, I worked in small farms and fields. I was born poor, and I stayed poor. My parents passed away when I was young, and I learned early that the world is not always kind. When I was 18, I met Clara. She was only 2 years younger than me, quiet and shy, with big brown eyes that always looked like they were waiting for something good to happen. We met at a small fruit farm. Both of us were new workers. and both of us needed the job badly. The first day, we worked side by side, picking oranges under the hot sun. My hands hurt, my back ached, and my head felt dizzy, but Clara kept talking softly. She said, "One day, I want to have my own little place. Just a house with a garden." I laughed and said, "That sounds like a dream." But she didn't laugh. She said, "Maybe dreams are all we have, Marlin." Since that day, we became close. We worked together, ate together, and when the work season ended, we went looking for another job together. Life was not easy for two girls with no family and no money. Sometimes we slept in old barns or under trees. Sometimes we shared a loaf of bread between us. But we always said the same thing before sleeping. One day, we'll have our own home. Years passed like that. We moved from place to place, picking fruits, cleaning rooms, taking any small job we could find. Some people were kind. Some were not. Many looked at us like we were nothing, but we never stopped dreaming. Last year, we found a small town called Willow Creek. It was quiet and peaceful. There was a big farm owned by a man named Mr. Benson. He needed workers to help with the wheat harvest. When we arrived, he looked at us with tired eyes. He said, "You two know how to work hard?" We nodded. He smiled a little and said, "Then you can stay. There's a small shed behind the field. You can sleep there." The shed was small and old. The roof leaked when it rained, and the floor was cold. But to us, it felt like a gift. Clara smiled when she saw it. "It's not much," she said, "but it's ours for now." That night, we sat outside, watching the stars. Clara looked at me and said, "Marlin, I think we can save money here. Maybe enough to buy our own small piece of land." I smiled, though I didn't really believe it. Still, I didn't want to take away her hope. I said, "Yes, maybe we can." We worked every day, from morning until sunset. The sun burned our skin, and the dust filled our clothes, but we didn't complain. Mr. Benson's wife, Mrs. Benson, was a kind woman. She often gave us bread and soup when she saw we were tired. Sometimes she talked to Clara and asked about our plans. Clara always said the same thing: "We want a better life." Mrs. Benson would smile sadly and say, "I hope you find it, dear." There was one man on the farm who made Clara nervous. His name was Paul. He was tall, with rough hands and a sharp face. He didn't talk much, but when he did, his words always felt heavy. One evening, when we were walking back to the shed, he called out, "Hey, where are you two from?" I said, "Southfield." He grinned. "Not many girls come this far alone. You must be brave." I didn't like the way he looked at Clara. She stayed quiet and walked faster. That night she told me, "Marlin, I don't like him. He looks at me in a strange way." I told her not to worry, that we just needed to keep our heads down and work. But I could see the fear in her eyes. Days went by. The wheat turned golden and heavy, and Mr. Benson said the harvest was almost ready. Everyone worked harder. Paul often came near us, pretending to help, but mostly just watching. I didn't like it, but I didn't want trouble. We needed the job. One afternoon, after a long day, Clara and I sat by the river behind the fields. It was quiet there, and the air felt cool. Clara took off her shoes and put her feet in the water. "When we get our land," she said, "I want a small house with flowers by the door. I'll grow tomatoes and beans, and maybe a few chickens." I smiled. "And what about me?" She laughed. "You can have a room too. You can plant sunflowers." I laughed with her, and for a moment I forgot about the hard life we had. It felt like the world was gentle for once. That night, as we walked back, we saw Paul near the shed. He was holding a bottle. He said something we couldn't understand and then laughed loudly. Clara grabbed my hand. We walked inside quickly and closed the door. I could hear his footsteps outside for a while, and then it was quiet. Clara sat in the dark, her face pale. I said softly, "It's okay. He's gone." But I wasn't sure. The next morning, Mr. Benson told everyone there was a storm coming. "Finish what you can today," he said. We worked until the sky turned gray. The wind blew hard and dust filled the air. Clara coughed and covered her face with a scarf. I could barely see her through the wind. By evening, the storm hit. The shed shook and rain poured through the roof. We moved to the corner where it was dry. Clara sat close to me, holding her blanket tight. "Do you think the rain will stop soon?" she asked. I smiled. It always stops. But that night, something felt wrong. Between the sound of thunder and rain, I heard footsteps outside. Slow, careful footsteps. Clara looked at me, her eyes wide. "Who's that?" she whispered. I stood up and listened. Someone was moving near the door. Then a voice said, "Open up! I need to talk!" It was Paul. My heart started beating fast. I whispered, "Don't say anything." He pushed the door, but it was locked. "I know, you're in there," he said, his voice louder now. "Don't make me angry." Clara held my hand tight. I didn't move. I prayed he would go away. After a few minutes, I heard him curse and walk off into the rain. We sat there all night, afraid to sleep. The next morning, when the sun came out, we went to work as usual. But Clara was quiet. She didn't smile, didn't talk. I asked her if she was okay. She said softly, "I just want to leave this place, Marlin. I don't feel safe." I wanted to tell her that everything would be fine, but I couldn't lie. Maybe she was right. That evening, Mrs. Benson came to us. She said, "Girls, when the harvest ends next week, we won't need extra help anymore." "I'm sorry." Clara's eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "What will we do now?" I didn't know what to say. We had nowhere to go, no money saved, and winter was coming. but I put my arm around her and said, "We'll find another job. We always do." That night, as she slept beside me, I lay awake listening to the sound of the wind outside. I thought about everything: the work, the fear, the dream. I wanted to believe we could still find our small house, our small peace. But deep down, I felt something dark and heavy, something I couldn't name. It was the feeling that maybe our dream was too far away. Maybe the world was too hard for girls like us. Still, I whispered to her in the dark, "We just want a better life, Clara. That's all." And she murmured, half asleep, "We'll find it one day." I wished I could believe her. Before I continue my story, please subscribe, share, and tell me where you are listening from. Your support means a lot to me. Now let's continue. The next few days after the storm were cold and wet. The ground was heavy with mud, and our shoes were always soaked. Clara coughed often. I told her to rest, but she refused. "We need to finish the harvest," she said. "We can't lose our pay." We worked side by side in the field, our hands red and our clothes sticking to our skin. The other workers didn't talk much. Everyone looked tired. Mr. Benson walked around with a serious face, shouting directions. Paul worked near the barn, carrying sacks of grain, but every time I looked up, I saw his eyes on us. That made me uneasy. One afternoon, when we were alone in the field, Clara stopped working and said, "Marlin, I can't stay here anymore. I want to leave before something bad happens." I looked at her and saw tears in her eyes. I wanted to say no, to tell her to wait until we got paid, but I saw fear written all over her face. I said, "Okay, we'll leave after this week. When we get our money, we'll go." She nodded slowly. "Promise?" she whispered. "I promise." That evening we went to the river again. The water was calm, the air cool. We sat, together, not saying much. The world felt heavy, like it was pressing down on us. Clara picked a small white flower from the grass and held it in her hand. "Maybe when we leave," she said softly, "we'll find a place where no one shouts at us, no one scares us. A place where we can laugh." I smiled, though I could feel tears in my throat. "We'll find it." The next morning, Mr. Benson gave everyone their pay early because the harvest was done. I was happy, but also scared. We didn't have a plan, only a small bag and a few dollars each. Still, it felt like a new start. Clara was quiet as we packed our things. "Where will we go?" she asked. "I heard there's work at the mill near the town of Graywood," I said. "It's not far." She smiled a little. "Then let's go tomorrow morning." That night, we ate our last dinner near the fire outside the shed. Mrs. Benson came by to give us a loaf of bread and a jar of jam. "You girls take care of yourselves," she said kindly. "The road is long and cold." "Thank you, ma'am," Clara said softly. We sat up late, talking about the future. For the first time in weeks, Clara looked peaceful. She talked about building a small home, about planting her favorite flowers, about having a small dog that would guard the door. I listened quietly, smiling, because when she talked about the future, it felt like we were already there. Before going to sleep, I whispered, "Tomorrow, everything will change." But I didn't know how right I was. In the middle of the night, I woke up to the sound of the door creaking. My heart stopped. I turned my head and saw a shadow moving inside the shed. I froze. Clara was still asleep beside me. The shape moved closer. I could smell alcohol. It was Paul. He stumbled toward Clara, his voice low and ugly. "You think you're too good to talk to me?" he whispered. "You think I don't see you looking away?" I sat up fast. "Leave us alone!" I shouted. He turned toward me, his eyes wild. "Stay out of this," he said. He grabbed Clara's arm. She woke up, terrified, trying to pull away. I picked up the metal lamp beside me and threw it at him. It hit his shoulder. He shouted in pain and let go of her. "Run!" I yelled. We ran out into the rain. The ground was slippery and we could barely see. We ran toward the barn because it was closer than the road. Behind us, I could hear Paul shouting and running after us. My heart pounded so loud I couldn't think. We hid behind some hay near the back wall of the barn. My hands were shaking. Clara was crying silently beside me. We could hear footsteps outside, slow and searching. Paul's voice came through the rain. "You can't hide from me. I'll find you." I held Clara's hand and whispered, "Don't move. Don't make a sound." Minutes passed, like hours. Then there was silence. I thought maybe he had gone. Slowly, I stood up and peeked through a gap in the wall. I saw nothing but darkness and rain. "He's gone," I whispered. But I was wrong. As I turned, Paul stepped out from behind the haystack. He grabbed my arm and pushed me hard. "You think you can run from me?" he shouted. Clara screamed and tried to pull him away. He hit her, and she fell. Something inside me broke. I grabbed a wooden stick lying near the hay and swung it as hard as I could. It hit his head. He fell to the ground, still. For a moment, everything was quiet except the sound of rain hitting the roof. I dropped the stick. My hands were shaking. Clara crawled over to him. "Marlon," she whispered. "He's not moving." We both stared at him. I couldn't speak. My body felt cold all over. "We have to go," I said finally. "Now." We ran back to the shed, grabbed our small bags, and left through the back road. The sky was turning light, gray, and sad. The rain had stopped, but everything was wet. We didn't speak as we walked. We just kept moving. When the sun rose, Clara said softly, "Do you think he's dead?" I didn't answer. I didn't want to know. I just said, "We did what we had to do." We walked for hours. By afternoon, we reached the main road. My shoes were soaked and my body hurt everywhere. Clara's face looked pale. "Let's rest here for a while," she said. We sat under a big oak tree. She leaned against my shoulder and closed her eyes. I looked at her and thought about everything we had been through. The long days, the hunger, the dreams we shared. I wanted to protect her from everything, but I couldn't even protect her from the world. A car passed by on the road. A man looked out and shouted, "Hey, are you two from the Benson farm? They're looking for you." My heart froze. Clara looked at me, scared. "What do we do now?" I grabbed her hand. "We keep walking," I said. "We don't stop." By evening, we reached a small bridge. The sky turned red and the world was quiet. Clara's steps were slow now. "I can't go much farther," she whispered. "We'll stop soon," I said. But I was scared. I didn't know where we were going anymore. All I knew was that we couldn't go back. We found an old barn near the edge of the woods. It looked empty. We went inside. Clara lay down on the hay and closed her eyes. "I'm so tired, Marlin," she said softly. "I know," I whispered. "Rest now. I'll keep watch." She smiled faintly. "We'll find that house one day, right?" I felt tears in my eyes. "Yes, Clara. We'll find it." But as I watched her fall asleep, I felt the weight of the night pressing down. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees. Somewhere far away, a dog barked. And I knew, deep in my heart, that our dream was slipping away, like a small light fading in the dark. When morning came, the air was cold and quiet. Sunlight slipped through the cracks in the old barn walls. I sat beside Clara, watching her sleep. Her face looked pale, almost white. I touched her forehead. It was warm, too warm. She opened her eyes slowly and smiled weakly. "Good morning," she whispered. "Good morning," I said softly. "How are you feeling?" She shook her head. "Just tired. My chest hurts a little." I looked around the barn. There was nothing there except hay, an old blanket, and a broken bucket. We had no food, no water, no medicine. I wanted to cry, but I stayed quiet. We waited for a while before walking again. Clara's steps were slow. Sometimes she had to stop and catch her breath. The road ahead looked endless. There were no houses, no people, just wide fields and the wind. Around noon, we saw a small gas station far away. My heart lifted. Maybe we could buy food or water there. We had only a few dollars left, but it was something. When we reached the station, the man behind the counter looked at us carefully. "You girls from around here?" he asked. I said, "No, sir. We're just passing through." He gave a short nod. "You look tired." "Yes, sir," I said. "We just need something to eat and some water." He filled 2 bottles for us and gave us bread. I paid him and thanked him. As we turned to leave, he said quietly, "There are men asking about 2 girls on foot. You best be careful." I froze. "Did they say what they wanted?" He shrugged. "Didn't say much. Just that they came from a farm down the road." Clara looked at me, her eyes wide with fear. I whispered, "It's okay. We'll keep going." We walked away fast. My hands trembled as I held the bottle. I couldn't stop thinking about Paul, about what we had done. If he was dead, maybe they would blame us. Maybe they already knew. As the sun started to set, we reached a small river. We sat by the bank and ate the bread slowly. Clara said softly, "Do you think they'll find us?" "I don't know," I said. "But I won't let them take you." She looked at me sadly. "You've always taken care of me, Marlin, ever since the farm in Southfield." I smiled faintly. "And I always will." We stayed there until it got dark. The sky was full of stars, and the moon shone on the water. It was peaceful, but I couldn't relax. Every sound made me turn my head. I felt like the world was watching us. That night, I couldn't sleep. Clara was breathing fast beside me. I touched her hand. It was cold now. I whispered, "Clara, are you okay?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said softly, "I'm just tired, Marlin. I want to rest." Shay leaned her head on my shoulder. "Remember what I said about the house with flowers?" "Yes." "Promise me you'll still find it, even if I can't." I shook my head. "Don't say that. You'll be there too." She smiled faintly. "Maybe, but if I'm not, promise me you'll keep dreaming." I couldn't speak. My throat felt tight. I just held her close. When morning came again, the sky was gray. I woke up to the sound of water. The river was moving fast after last night's rain. I turned to Clara. She was still. Too still. Her face was calm, her eyes closed, and her hand rested near mine. I touched her arm. It was cold. My heart stopped. "Clara," I whispered. "Clara, wake up." She didn't move. I called her name again and again, but she was gone. I don't remember how long I sat there. Maybe hours, maybe all day. The world felt empty. I felt like part of me had gone with her. When the sun went down, I finally stood up. I couldn't leave her lying there alone. I found a quiet place near the riverbank under a big tree. I covered her with the blanket and the small white flowers she had once picked by the water. I whispered, "You have your garden now, Clara. You're free." I cried until I couldn't anymore. That night, I walked away from the river. My feet felt heavy, but I kept walking. I didn't know where to go. The stars were bright above me, but they didn't feel warm anymore. I just walked and walked, repeating the same words in my head. We just wanted a better life. That's all we wanted. A week later, I reached Graywood. The town was small but busy. I found work at a small diner washing dishes. I never told anyone my real name or where I came from. I just said my name was Mary. People there were kind. They didn't ask questions. At night, when the work was done, I sat outside behind the diner and looked at the stars. Sometimes I talked to Clara in my heart. I told her about the people I met, the food I cooked, the songs I heard on the radio. I told her I was trying to be happy. One day, Mrs. Hill, the diner owner, came to me and said, "Mary, I have a small room behind the diner. It's old, but it's yours if you want it." I followed her behind the building. It was a small wooden room with a little window and a bed. My heart started to beat faster. It wasn't much. The paint was peeling and the air smelled of dust. But when I stood in that doorway, I saw something Clara had dreamed of. A little place of our own. That night, I sat on the bed and whispered, "We made it, Clara." Maybe not the way we planned, but we did. I kept working, saving small amounts of money. Sometimes I planted flowers in a box outside my window, white ones, like the flower Clara once held by the river. Every morning when I watered them, I felt her with me. Years passed, and life stayed quiet. I never forgot her. Every time I saw a girl working hard, carrying her dreams in her tired eyes, I thought of us, two girls with nothing but hope. Sometimes, when I looked at the fields outside town, golden in the sunlight, I could almost see her there, smiling and barefoot, her hair shining like wheat. She would look back at me and say, "We just wanted a better life, Marlon. And that's okay." And I would smile, whispering to the wind, "Yes, Clara, we did."